So today what I want to do is spend a few minutes to talk about mobile technology. You've heard a lot over the day and how it's bridging the digital divide. Spend quite a bit of that time talking about what I'm doing in Nigeria, but I'll also spend some time talking about other companies as well. I'll take you back, first of all, to something that we've heard about and take you to 2000. In 2000, there were no mobile phones pretty much anywhere on the continent. And I remember going back home after being away for 4 years for university, and I was really shocked at the fact that time and again, people would set meetings with me, and it will get canceled because they got delayed. They could not tell me they couldn't make the meeting. And I was like, how does a society function without being able to communicate? Right? And you just fast forward to 2011 and how times have changed, right? I think someone else mentioned it before, 316 million mobile phone subscribers, right? And we just need to pause a little bit about this, right? There's a report I read that's in 1999, Safaricom of Kenya projected that by 2020, they will have 3 million subscribers. They have 14 million today, yeah? No one anticipated this growth. 11.2 million square kilometers of Africa is covered in mobile phone coverage. That's the size of Argentina and the United States put together, right? 60% of Africans are within mobile phone coverage. In my home country of Nigeria, whether the numbers are, fudged or not, it's about 50% of the market. And people have not just one phone, they carry 2 or 3 phones. It's actually quite interesting. You go to a meeting and people lay out 4 phones in front of them. Right? And it's only because it's cheaper for me to call someone who's on MTN with my MTN phone. So I'm going to carry an MTN phone, I'll carry an Airtel phone, I'll carry a Glow phone, just so it's cheaper for me to make that phone call. Right? So the opportunity and the fact that everyone, including my gate man, is carrying a mobile phone is quite large. And indeed, I believe it's the same kind of productivity gains that we saw here in the West when IBM came out with a computer, when the internet protocol was created by Cisco. Those kind of productivity gains are what we are seeing with the mobile phone. And that's where the opportunity really lies. And across the continent, we are seeing a growing ecosystem, and I think this will interest those of you in the room who are techies, a growing ecosystem of technologists. And there are really 3 key cities, and I've added a 4th one. But Accra, Lagos, Nairobi and Cape Town are known, that these are growing hubs of tech entrepreneurs. I was at a Google event last week where they held a 2-day event in Nigeria. It's the second time doing this. And there were over 1,000 techies in the room. These are young people who are excited about building businesses and building solutions for Nigeria, for Africa. I was actually pretty amazed to see it myself. I've added Addis Ababa. I'll explain that in a little bit because I think it's actually a hidden gem on this continent in terms of the tech sector, and I think it's going to grow quite rapidly. But all these entrepreneurs are not only building solutions for Africa, they're actually building solutions for the global markets as well. And I'll give you a few examples of this. We have a company in Ghana called Rancard Solutions that has built an in-house content delivery platform that is being used by 8 different telcos across the continent, being used by the likes of ESPN, BBC, to deliver content not only to Africa, but actually to the Middle East. Right? And the services that they're providing and layering on is actually going beyond where they originally started. But it's quite interesting to see that they built this in-house. Or as was being mentioned today about agriculture, right? The Esoko service is doing price dissemination, right? One of the biggest issues we have on the continent is just the ability to get information, right? So farmers, if you just really think about this, for farmers, Professor, you know better than I do, right? Farmers, to know where to go sell your goods is a big challenge, right? And now with the Esoko service, it's a very simple service. You send an SMS in. A farmer in Tamale in Ghana can actually send a message in to find out how much his tomatoes are going for in Accra or in Kumasi. And they make a very informed decision about where to go to buy those goods. And they're actually going out and gathering this information from markets every day. And actually, Nokia is doing something similar around this as well with Nokia Life Tools. There's a company that I'm very excited about called Deposit, and is one of the gems out of Ethiopia. And this is a group of guys who studied at Brown University, got their computer science degrees, and Harvard sponsored the creation of the financial systems of the country of Ethiopia, and they went back to develop this. So upon finishing this multi-year project, they realized that there's a gap in the market. Why should we go back to the US as techies when it could go back to Google, Yahoo, but they could be in Ethiopia and build out solutions? And so they did. And today, they have built what has been renowned as one of the first real-time commodities trading exchanges by SMS, right? And they're actually very actively involved in what I'm doing. And then an area where I'm very excited about and very interested in is financial services. And across the continent, we are seeing mobile phones and mobile technology being used to deliver financial services, right? Only 25% of Africans have access to formal financial services. But yet most people are walking around with a mobile phone. And I think that presents an opportunity. And the opportunity it presents is to use the mobile phone to deliver financial services to those people. Right? And when you think about the fact that for every one phone, there's about 2 to 3 people who are sharing that phone, you can actually now think of reaching a larger audience. And that's exactly what we're doing at Paga in Nigeria. I founded this company in 2009 out of a frustration I had with carrying cash around with me in Lagos. And POSs are almost nowhere to be found. 60% of the ATMs in Nigeria are in Lagos State. And many times they're not working, right? You go to one ATM to the next and it's not working. And yet I have a phone signal. So the question was, can the phone become the primary means of delivering the service, not the only means? And this is what our team of 52 people are focused on every day. And our mission is to transform lives by delivering innovative and universal access to financial services. And I want to pause there for a second because for us, this is, when you think about mobile payments and you talk about it, on the surface, it sounds, different companies are doing similar things. But this is a real key differentiator for us. The one thing we wake up and think about is how do we deliver a service to the masses, right? And how do we change people's lives from that perspective? So this is very important for us as we go about our mission. We launched Paga in February of 2001. And we came out with, after we did a pilot in September for a few months, we got our license, and we launched 4 key products that are supposed to generate demand for us, right? One is person-to-person remittances, bill payments, ability to buy or send airtime to anyone. Now you no longer have to do a scratch card. If you've ever been to the continent, you buy, from someone on the side of the road, you buy a card and you scratch it. And you don't have to do that anymore. And the ability to pay merchants as well. And we've seen pretty good pickup on this, even though there's some restrictions from the central bank at the moment in terms of what we can do on a marketing side. But basically, we've seen good pickup on these services. There are multiple channels that we provide, which is why I said the phone is the primary channel, not the only channel. And we believe simplicity is king. If you're going to achieve ubiquity, you have to make it very simple, right? So SMS is the #1 channel. If you can send a simple SMS, and there was a day that this really hit me. I was in the office and I got a text message from my gate man, who is not educated. And I read it and I understood that message. I've shown that message to non-Nigerians, and it takes at most 2 minutes and you get what he's saying, right? And it was just phonetic, and he was basically telling me to tell a friend to come and move their car. And when I saw that, I said, if Muhammad can send me that text message, then Muhammad can type send 500 and a phone number, and he can use Paga, right? It's not brain surgery. And it's as simple as that. Literally, this is how you send money on Paga. This is a snapshot of my BlackBerry. This is just my SMS messages. And to send money on Paga is just send 500 and a phone number, and it goes into their account. And that account is actually held in the Paga cloud, and we're maintaining the accounting of it, right? And so all we're really doing is we're across networks. It works on all mobile phone networks in Nigeria, and we partner with the banks, right? And so it's a service independent of one specific telco. Or as I did just yesterday, actually, I was visiting some folks here in the room, and I was demoing. Actually, I got a message previously from the cable provider telling me that my cable bill was due. And I said, okay, my cousin's at my house. I'm not there, but she'd like to have cable. So I actually demoed it for them, and that's how I paid my bill. That's my smart card number. I just did DSTV, It's the largest provider in Africa. 10,000 and my smart card number. And before this message comes back to me, we've actually already turned on my system. And so it's very simple. But what we are doing beyond all of this is that we actually, mobile payments is just to generate demand, as I said. We're partnering with banks and microfinance organizations to build a system that would deliver low-cost products through our agent network. So think about now my driver, Usman, can actually get a savings account, right? He cannot go into a Diamond Bank and get a savings account today, right? He doesn't have the credibility to do that. But he can walk into a Paga agent and open a savings account. And after saving for a period of time, he can now access microcredit. You know, he doesn't need 15,000 naira. He actually just needs 1,000 naira to buy himself something, right? Or 500 naira to buy himself airtime, right? So what we believe people need is a cash management utility. Something that allows them to save when they have and develops their credit worthiness and allows them to then access credit when they need it. And that's what we're developing at Paga. We believe that in 5 years, we would have brought financial services towards about 40 million Nigerians. And our goal is actually to have 15 million active users in 5 years, and that would actually achieve these numbers conservatively. The market opportunity is quite big. Indeed, we believe we're looking at $1 billion opportunity in Nigeria alone. Our vision is Pan-African. We've actually already started on the second market we're going into. But Nigeria in of itself is $1 billion opportunity, and we think for investors that there's a huge opportunity for you to actually exit on Paga. So while the actresses of the world do big ticket items, $40 million, and don't invest in companies like Paga, well, there's a big opportunity for those who do, right? And so that's what we're looking for. But you know what? The challenge in the market is that there's currently very little early stage capital. I was looking at that list that Ngozi put up and the list earlier as well. And there are very few of those companies that would invest in an early stage company. Right? And when Fred asked that question earlier about what the risk is to the panel, and I was telling him, and I said, I actually think, aside from leadership is a big challenge. But I actually think where the risk lies for Africa is that you'll find people like myself who've gone back, or people who are entrepreneurial on the continent, not be able to access credit, not be able to access funds, right, to be able to build their businesses. And it would actually cause the opposite to happen, and it would not allow the generation of that full ecosystem of building out entrepreneurial ventures. And as you've seen here in the Valley, that's the engine of growth, right? It's actually going to come from private sector, and it's going to come from small businesses and growing an opportunity. We've been very fortunate at Paga to raise financing from the likes of Tim Draper, who's invested in us. 2 weeks ago, we closed our first institutional financing from a firm called Goodwell, West Africa, and we've gotten some grant funding as well. So for us, it's the journey continues, but we've been very fortunate so far. But we're cognizant of the fact that it's not this is not the story across the continent. The story is most entrepreneurial ventures find it very difficult to raise capital. But if you're like me and you're looking for opportunity, you then ask, where is opportunity and where does it lie, right? And I strongly believe that the opportunity of Africa is actually in early stage. And it's about finding the right teams. It has its challenges. It's not all rosy. It's a difficult place to do business sometimes. Not everything, you know, I was telling Rory that we just bought a generator, right? And the amount of time and energy we spend on generator, the business, you know, just to get us productive is, you know, it's mind-boggling. But those are the things that if you do these things, you can actually get real significant returns on it, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity in Nigeria, on the continent, and I think entrepreneurship is going to help with that.